The training station floated above a dead moon, far from any human colony. It was not built for comfort. The walls were cold steel, the lights were sharp and white, and the corridors echoed with strange alien voices. Every corner smelled of metal, oil, and something sour that John could never name. John Walker, the only human in this cycle, stepped through the docking bay. His boots felt heavy the moment he entered. Not from gravity yet, but from the eyes. Dozens of alien cadets watched him. Some had scales, some had fur, some had skin so thin their veins glowed. They all had one thing in common: mockery in their eyes. "Is this the human?" one whispered. "He looks fragile," another said. "Maybe he will cry in the first hour." John ignored them. He had expected this. Humans were new to the Galactic training program. Most species believed Earthborn recruits were weak, too soft for the brutal courses designed to shape warriors. That was exactly why John had volunteered. The main hall opened, vast and echoing, with banners of alien houses hanging high. At the center stood the instructor. He was tall, armored in dark plates, and his forearms folded across his chest. His voice rumbled like thunder when he spoke. "Welcome to training. Only the strong will leave this place alive. The weak will return in shame." All cadets straightened. The instructor's eyes scanned the group, then paused on John. His mandibles clicked in amusement. "And here we have a new experiment. A human." Laughter rolled across the hall. John kept his face calm. The instructor waved one arm, and the group was led into the gravity chamber. The chamber was a dome of steel with glowing panels along the walls. It could change gravity at the instructor's command. Aliens called it the Forge of Bones because it broke those who were not ready. The instructor's voice echoed inside. "Standard training begins at 1 gravity unit. For you, human, we will make it." "Interesting." He raised a clawed hand. The floor vibrated. Suddenly, John's body grew heavy. The weight pressed down on his shoulders, his knees, his chest. He staggered, almost falling. "Double gravity," the instructor announced. "Let us see if the human can crawl like an insect." Laughter again. Aliens leaned against the walls, grinning. Some imitated crawling motions. John's breath came sharp. His heart pounded. It felt like carrying another man on his back, crushing and constant. His bones ached, his muscles screamed. Sweat broke across his forehead in seconds. He bent his knees, clenched his fists, and forced himself to stand straight. One step another, slow, painful, but steady. The laughter dimmed. Whispers replaced it. He should have fallen by now. "Humans are not supposed to handle this." "Why is he still moving?" The instructor narrowed his eyes. "You endure?" "Impressive for a fragile species. But tell me, human, what do you think of this gravity?" John's lips curled into a smile, though every nerve begged him to collapse. His voice came steady, even mocking. "It's heavy," he admitted, "but not heavy enough." The hall went silent. Dozens of alien eyes widened. The instructor tilted his head. "Not enough?" John raised his chin. His legs trembled, but his voice was firm. "If you want to test me, then don't stop at double. Make it triple." A shockwave of whispers filled the chamber. Cadets looked at one another, some laughing in disbelief, some frowning in confusion. No one ever asked for more gravity. They begged for less. They pleaded for mercy. This human was asking for the impossible. The instructor's mandibles clicked again, this time not with laughter but curiosity. "You ask for triple?" His voice was sharp. "Do you understand what you say? Many of my kind fail under triple." John's smile did not fade. "Then maybe it's time for a human to try." The tension in the chamber thickened. Every cadet leaned forward. The air itself felt heavy, as if it weighted with them. The instructor studied John, silent for a long moment. Then, very slowly, he lifted his clawed hand again. The glowing panels around the dome flared brighter. "Very well," he said. "The human has asked for triple. Let us see if Earth blood can survive the forge." The floor shook again. The weight doubled once more. John's legs nearly buckled, his spine screamed, and his vision blurred at the edges. He clenched his teeth, sweat pouring down his face. Every step felt like walking through stone. Around him, the aliens watched in silence. No one laughed now. No one mocked. They only stared. John took another step. Then another. His breath rasped, but his eyes burned with fire. The instructor leaned forward, voice low, almost curious. "Will you break, human? Or will you show us something none of us expect?" The chamber waited. The cadets waited. John's answer was still being written. In every trembling step he forced forward. And in that silence, One thought spread among the aliens like wildfire. What if the human survives? The chamber pulsed with light as the gravity climbed higher. John felt it crush down like a mountain pressing on his back. His knees wobbled and his chest burned with every breath. Triple gravity was not just heavy, it was a test of bones, muscles, and will. Around him, alien cadets whispered in disbelief. No one can stand in this. Even a Carrick warrior falls under triple. The human will break in seconds. But John did not fall. He bent his knees, spread his stance, and planted his feet firm on the steel floor. His body shook, sweat rolling down his neck, but he kept standing. The instructor watched closely. His mandibles clicked as if measuring every tremble, every breath. Interesting, he said. The human does not collapse. John gritted his teeth. He tried to step forward. His foot lifted, but it felt like dragging iron chains. The floor groaned under his boots. His whole body screamed at him to stop. Yet he forced one step, then another. The alien's whispers grew louder. Some mocked, but others sounded uneasy. How is he still moving? He should be broken already. Maybe humans are not as weak as we thought. Every word reached John's ears, fueling his fire. He was not here to prove himself only, he was here to prove his species. Humans had always survived what others thought impossible. Cold nights, burning deserts, endless wars. If his ancestors could endure that, he could endure this. But inside, his body begged him to quit. His lungs burned, his arms shook violently, and his heart hammered against his ribs. His vision blurred with dark spots. The instructor stepped closer, 4 eyes gleaming. You are stubborn, human, but stubbornness does not keep bones from breaking. John forced a smile, even as blood rushed to his face. Then I'll break standing. A ripple of silence spread across the chamber. No alien had ever spoken such words. Most begged for release long before this point. The human was asking for more punishment. The instructor studied him for a long moment. Then a slow grin spread across his face. Very well. Walk, human. Show us how long Earthblood can last, John tried. His steps were small, shaking, but they moved him forward. Each stride felt like dragging a boulder. Sweat dripped into his eyes, stinging, but he kept his gaze steady. Minutes stretched like hours. Some cadets began to murmur respect. He refuses to quit. Maybe he is stronger than we thought. Or maybe he is insane. John heard it all, but he kept moving, step after step. At the back of the crowd, one alien cadet watched with narrowed eyes. Tall, armored, with scars along his jawline, he leaned forward. His name was Korath, a warrior of the Gornak race, known for their brutal strength. His claws tapped against the wall as he glared at John. Pathetic, Korath muttered. He is no warrior. He is just refusing to fall. But even he could not hide the flicker of unease in his eyes. John's body screamed louder. His legs shook so badly he thought they might snap. Every breath scraped his lungs raw. But something inside him burned hotter than the pain. A memory. He saw his father's face years ago on Earth telling him, humans are not the fastest, not the strongest, not the smartest. But we never stop. That is our strength. John clenched his fists tighter. His voice came out low, cracked but strong. I won't stop, the instructor tilted his head. Remarkable. His claw tapped a control on his wrist. The glowing panels flickered. John frowned. Something felt heavier. His stomach dropped. The pressure grew stronger. His body lurched forward, knees nearly buckling. The instructor had increased the weight again, secretly. It was no longer triple gravity. It was more. Aliens gasped. He raised it again! Without telling the human. This will kill him. John's vision blurred, his muscles screamed, but he realized what had happened. The instructor was testing him beyond his own request. Not just triple, something greater. And yet, even as the crushing force bore down on him, John forced his legs to lock in place. His voice came ragged, but it carried across the chamber. Is that all you've got? The silence was electric. Dozens of alien eyes stared wide and disbelieving. The human knew the instructor had cheated, and still he mocked him. The instructor's mandibles clicked in amusement, but his eyes burned with curiosity now. This was no weak creature from a backwater planet. This was something different. Very well, human, he said softly. Let us see how long you can endure the forge of bones. John's knees trembled. His vision dimmed. His body screamed at him to surrender. But deep inside, his spirit blazed like fire, and as the cadets watched in stunned silence, one question grew in every mind. How far can a human truly go? The chamber was silent except for John's heavy breathing. Triple gravity had already been unbearable, but the secret increase made every second feel like his body was being torn apart. His bones creaked, his muscles trembled, and dark spots swam before his eyes. The aliens expected to hear a scream. Instead, they heard footsteps. Slow, heavy, dragging footsteps. John moved again. One cadet whispered, "He should be unconscious." Another said, "No creature can walk under this weight." A third muttered, "Then maybe he isn't just a creature." John's body felt like it was breaking apart. Each breath burned like fire in his chest. His legs shook so hard they threatened to snap. He wanted to collapse, to sink into the steel floor and let the darkness take him. But another voice inside his head was louder, "Not yet. Not while they're watching." The instructor folded his forearms and leaned closer. His eyes glowed with a strange light. "You are walking in gravity that kills even my warriors," he said. "Why do you not fall, human?" John swallowed against the dryness in his throat. His lips cracked as he spoke, voice hoarse. "Because falling is what you want." The words spread through the chamber like fire. No one had ever spoken to the instructor like that. No one had ever defied him in the middle of the forge. The instructor's mandibles clicked, this time with respect more than amusement, but not everyone was impressed. From the back of the chamber, Korath, the scarred alien cadet, growled in disgust. His heavy claws dug into the steel wall. "He is not strong," Korath snarled. "He is only stubborn. A weak body that refuses to die." John heard it. Even under the crushing weight, his ears caught every word. He forced himself to lift his head, sweat dripping into his eyes, and looked straight at Korath. "Stubborn," John gasped between breaths. "Is what keeps us alive." The room went silent again. Every alien stared at him. His words were strange to them. They had always believed strength came only from muscle, claws, or thick armor. But this human spoke of something else. The instructor suddenly barked a command. "Stop." The gravity eased just a little. Not normal, not even double, but enough that John's chest loosened and he could breathe again. His legs wobbled, close to collapse, but he stayed on his feet. The instructor approached, towering over him. His eyes scanned John's shaking frame, the sweat, the trembling muscles, the pale skin. "Most who survive this," he said slowly, "spend weeks in healing chambers. You still stand. Why?" John raised his head, his face pale but his eyes burning. "Because pain means I'm still alive. And if I'm alive, I keep moving." A strange murmur spread through the cadets. Some looked uneasy. Some looked inspired. The instructor turned to them. "Do you see? The human's body is weak, but his will? His will is stronger than any of yours." Korath growled again, louder this time. "No, he is not stronger than me. Give him to me, instructor. I will show everyone his limits." A ripple of excitement spread through the chamber. A duel, under gravity. The cadet's eyes lit up. The instructor tilted his head, considering. "Perhaps you are right, Korath. A test of strength against a rival will show us the truth." He looked down at John. "Human, do you accept a challenge?" John's lungs still burned. His vision still blurred. Every part of him screamed to rest. But when he looked at Korath, he saw the sneer, the arrogance, the absolute certainty that humans were beneath them. And John could not walk away from that. He wiped sweat from his forehead, straightened his shaking body, and nodded. "I accept." The chamber erupted with noise. Some cadets cheered. Some hissed. Others muttered bets. Korath stepped forward, his claws shining under the chamber lights. He was taller, broader, his skin armored with thick scales. Every step he took sent echoes across the floor. He glared down at John like a predator staring at prey. "You may have survived gravity," Korath said with a sharp grin. "But against me, you will crawl." John's body was exhausted, broken, barely holding together. But as he looked up at Korath, a strange smile tugged at his lips. "Then let's see if you can make me." The instructor raised a hand. The chamber fell silent. His voice rumbled deep and cold. "Then it is settled. Tomorrow at dawn under heavy gravity, the human and the Gornak will fight." Gasps echoed. Heavy gravity duels were rare. Many ended in death. John staggered back toward his quarters, every muscle screaming. He could barely walk. His body begged him to quit, to leave, to save himself. But in his heart, the fire burned hotter than before. Tomorrow would not be about survival. It would be about proving that humans were more than anyone believed. And as he lay on his bed, chest rising and falling in painful gasps, one thought circled his mind. I will not break. Not now, not tomorrow. The training station never slept, but that night the corridors were unusually quiet. Every cadet knew what was coming. A duel under heavy gravity was rare, and the thought of a fragile human facing a Gornak warrior made whispers spread like fire. John lay awake in his bunk, staring at the ceiling. His body ached from the triple gravity test. His muscles twitched with exhaustion, his bones felt like stone, and his chest burned with every breath. Still, his eyes stayed sharp. He was not thinking of sleep. He was thinking of Korath. The scarred alien's sneer replayed in his mind. Korath's words echoed, "Against me you will crawl." John clenched his fists. "We'll see," he whispered into the darkness. At dawn, the cadets gathered in the gravity chamber. The air buzzed with excitement. Some placed silent bets. Others whispered predictions. Most were certain Korath would crush the human in seconds. The instructor stood tall in the center, his forearms folded, his voice booming through the chamber. Today, the Forge of Bones becomes a ring of battle. Korath of the Gornak will fight John Walker of Earth. Heavy gravity will decide who endures. The glowing panels flared, and the weight pressed down. Double gravity first, heavy enough to slow every step, to make breathing sharp and painful, but not so heavy that the duel would end too soon. John entered the chamber, every movement stiff but steady. The weight pressed against him, but he forced himself to walk tall. Across from him, Korath stepped forward, his armored body moving as if the gravity were nothing at all. His claws flexed, glinting under the lights. "You should have stayed in your bunk, human," Korath growled. "This floor will be your grave." John's lips curved into a thin smile. "Funny. I was thinking the same for you." Gasps spread through the cadets. No one had ever spoken to Korath like that. The instructor raised his arm. "Begin!" Korath charged. His steps were thunder, each one shaking the chamber. His claws slashed through the air, aimed straight for John's chest. John moved, not fast, not graceful. Heavy gravity dragged every muscle, but he shifted just enough. The claws sliced past, missing him by inches. He stumbled sideways, breath ragged. His body screamed with pain from the dodge, but his mind stayed sharp. He knew he couldn't outmatch Korath in strength. He had to outlast him. Korath snarled, spinning, striking again. John ducked low, the claws tearing a long scratch into the steel wall behind him. Sparks flew. The cadets roared, cheering, hissing, shouting. Some for Korath, a few quietly for John. John steadied himself, sweat dripping down his forehead. His lungs felt like fire, but he remembered his father's words again. "We never stop." He waited, feet planted, watching Korath's every move. The Gornak lunged once more, heavy and brutal. John shifted, letting the claws slice air again. This time, he shoved against Korath's arm with both hands. It wasn't strong, but it was enough. Korath's balance wavered under the gravity. For a moment, the cadets gasped. The human had touched him. Korath roared, rage flashing in his eyes. He swung harder, faster, claws tearing through the air with lethal force. John dodged again, but slower this time. The claws grazed his shoulder, ripping his training suit, leaving a shallow cut that bled under the pressure. Pain exploded through John's body. His knees buckled, but he stayed upright. He raised his head, breathing hard, and smirked through the pain. "That all you've got?" The cadets froze. Whispers broke out. This human was bleeding, struggling, half-broken, and still mocking. Korath's fury boiled. He slammed his claws down with all his strength, aiming to crush John. The floor shook. John twisted aside at the last moment, rolling under the weight of gravity. His body screamed, but instinct pushed him on. He rose to one knee, panting, looking up at Korath. "You're strong," John admitted, voice raw. "But strength means nothing. If you can't finish the fight," the instructor's eyes gleamed. He leaned forward, mandibles clicking in quiet interest. John's body was near its limit. His arms trembled, his lungs burned, and his shoulder bled freely. But his mind stayed locked on one goal: survive, endure, and prove them wrong. The duel was far from over, but already something had shifted in the chamber. The cadets no longer laughed. They no longer whispered of weakness. Now they watched with silence, waiting to see if the impossible could happen. And as Korath stepped forward again, claws raised for another brutal strike, John steadied himself, legs shaking but firm. This fight would not end quickly. It would push them both beyond their limits. The instructor's voice echoed low, almost to himself, but loud enough for all to hear. Will this be the human's breaking point? Or his breakthrough? The duel ended without a winner. The instructor had stepped in before blood turned to death. Korath had wanted to keep going, but John could barely stay on his feet. Even so, he had not fallen. That alone had changed something in the training station. As John limped back to his bunk, the cadets whispered in the corridors. He survived against Korath. No one has lasted this long under heavy gravity. Maybe humans are not weak after all, but there were others who whispered with anger, not respect. Korath was one of them. His pride had been wounded. He had not crushed the human as easily as he promised. His scarred jaw clenched every time he thought about it. John lay on his bunk, staring at the ceiling again. His body screamed with pain, bruises darkened his arms, his shoulder was bandaged, and every breath still hurt. Yet inside a spark had grown brighter. He had not won, but he had not broken either. He whispered to himself, "We don't stop. We keep moving." The next days of training were worse. The instructors pushed harder, raising gravity levels, increasing combat drills, testing reflexes with cruel traps. Many cadets failed, collapsing in exhaustion or begging to stop. John refused to quit. He fell many times, but each time he dragged himself back to his feet. Sometimes on shaking legs, sometimes crawling before standing again. The aliens began to notice. One cadet, a slim creature with translucent skin, watched John closely. After training, it approached him. "Why do you keep going?" it asked. "You are injured. You bleed. You cannot win." John wiped sweat from his face, smiling faintly, because stopping means losing. "And I didn't come here to lose." The alien tilted its head as if trying to understand. For the first time, it did not laugh at him. It nodded and walked away, deep in thought. John started training on his own. When others rested, he stayed in the gravity chamber. He practiced breathing, slow, steady, controlled, to fight against the crushing weight. He practiced small movements, teaching his body to survive in impossible conditions. He remembered stories from Earth, divers who swam deep into oceans, mountaineers who climbed freezing peaks, soldiers who carried on when their bodies were broken. He thought of all those who endured, and he carried their spirit inside him. One night, while practicing under double gravity, John collapsed to his knees. His chest heaved, and he thought he could not stand again. But then he saw his reflection in the steel wall, sweaty, broken, exhausted, and he whispered to that reflection, "Get up." Slowly, painfully, he rose again, unseen by him. Two alien cadets watched from the doorway. They had come to laugh, to mock. Instead, they stood in silence. "Did you see that?" one whispered. "He pushes himself beyond reason." "Maybe that's why he survives," word spread. Some cadets began to copy him, staying longer in the chamber, practicing harder. None lasted as long, but they tried. Even the instructors noticed. One muttered to another, "He teaches them without meaning to." But not all were pleased. Korath's rage grew every day. He saw the whispers, the respect growing for the human, and it burned inside him like fire. "He is nothing," Korath growled to his companions, a weak body pretending to be strong. "I will end this farce." The instructor, however, had other plans. He summoned John after a long day of drills. The human stood before him, sweat-soaked, shoulders bruised, but eyes steady. "You have done more than expected," the instructor said. His voice was low, thoughtful. "But words and training are not enough. It is time for the ultimate trial," John frowned. "Ultimate trial?" The instructor's mandibles clicked. "The gravity chamber will be raised to a level no cadet has ever endured. Even Korath would not enter it willingly. If you survive, you will earn respect. If you fail, you may die." The room grew colder. John's heart pounded, but his face stayed calm. "When?" "Tomorrow." The instructor's four eyes narrowed. "Sleep well, human. It may be your last." John left the hall, his steps heavy. He knew tomorrow could kill him, but in his chest, the fire only grew stronger. He whispered to himself again as he walked into the dark corridor. "We don't stop. Not now, not ever." And in the shadows unseen by him, Korath smiled. For if the gravity did not kill the human tomorrow, he would. The day arrived. The training station buzzed with quiet tension. Cadets whispered in corners, instructors checked systems twice, and even the ever-proud Korath was silent. Everyone knew what was coming, the human's trial under gravity levels that could crush bone and stop a heart. John walked into the chamber with slow steps. His body still carried bruises, but his eyes were steady. He looked at the steel walls, the glowing control panels, and the floor that had tried many times to break him. The instructor stood outside with a group of senior officers. His voice echoed through the speakers. Human, today the chamber will rise to triple gravity. It has never been attempted by a cadet. You will last until you can no longer stand. Do you understand? John nodded once. I understand. The doors sealed shut with a heavy clang. The lights dimmed. A low hum began to fill the chamber as the gravity field activated. John felt it first in his chest, like invisible hands pressing down. His knees bent slightly. His muscles strained, but he did not fall. Outside, the cadets leaned closer to the viewing glass. Some expected him to collapse within minutes. Others whispered in nervous excitement. Inside, John closed his eyes. Steady breathing, slow, one step at a time. The floor seemed to grow heavier with every passing second. His bones ached, his lungs screamed for air, and his heartbeat thundered like a drum. He clenched his fists and whispered, "Not today." Minutes passed. Sweat dripped from his face, forming small dark spots on the steel floor. His body trembled, but he forced himself to take one step forward. Then another. Then another. The cadets gasped. He's walking. At triple gravity? Impossible, Korath scowled, his jaw tight. The human should have been broken already. The instructor watched silently. His 4 eyes narrowed, studying every movement. Inside, John's mind went to Earth. He remembered the mountains where climbers fought against thin air, the oceans where divers pushed against crushing depths, the deserts where soldiers marched with bleeding feet. He thought of them all, and he carried them with him. Every step was pain. His shoulders sagged as if carrying invisible mountains. His legs shook like fragile branches in a storm. But still, he moved. 10 minutes passed, 15, 20. Then his knees buckled. He slammed to the floor, gasping for air. The chamber pressed against him like the weight of the world. Every part of his body screamed, "Stay down." The cadets outside leaned forward. It's over. But John planted his palms against the steel. His arms shook violently. His teeth clenched. Slowly, painfully, inch by inch, he pushed himself back up. When he stood again, the chamber erupted in whispers. He got back up. No one does that. John raised his head toward the viewing glass. His eyes burned with determination. The instructor whispered, almost to himself, "Human spirit." But the trial was not done. The controls glowed again. The gravity pushed harder, beyond triple. The chamber groaned as if even the metal hated the pressure. John felt it instantly. His ribs ached, his vision blurred, and blood dripped from his nose. His body bent forward like a tree about to break. This was no longer survival. This was beyond reason, yet a strange calm filled him. He whispered, "One more step," and he did. Then another, and another. Every movement was a war. His body begged for mercy, but his soul screamed louder. "We don't stop." Outside, cadets pressed their hands against the glass, their faces pale. Even Korath's eyes widened, though his mouth twisted in anger. Finally, after what felt like eternity, the instructor raised a hand. The chamber powered down. The crushing weight lifted. John collapsed to the floor, unconscious but alive. The doors opened and medics rushed inside. They lifted him onto a stretcher, their faces showing both fear and respect. The cadets fell silent as John was carried past them. No one laughed. No one mocked. For the first time, they looked at a human and saw something more than flesh. They saw endurance made into flesh. Korath watched, his fists clenched so hard his claws drew blood. He leaned close to one of his companions and whispered, "This is not over. If gravity cannot break him, I will." The trial was complete. John had survived the impossible, but survival came with a price. His body was broken, his muscles torn, and his mind haunted by the crushing weight. Yet even as he lay in the med bay unconscious, his lips moved faintly. A whisper, Barely a breath. We don't stop. The words echoed in the silence, and those who heard them felt a chill, for they knew the human was not done yet, and neither was Korath. The medbay lights flickered softly as John opened his eyes. Every bone in his body ached, every muscle felt torn, but his spirit was alive. He breathed in sharply, remembering the crushing weight of the gravity chamber. For a moment, he wondered if it had been a dream, but then he saw the looks on the medics' faces, half fear, half awe. No, it was real. He had done what no cadet, alien or human, had ever done. Word had spread through the entire academy. In every hall, every mess room, every training field, one name was whispered: the human. Some cadets now respected him. Some feared him, but one burned with anger: Korath. 2 days later, the academy held a public trial. It was a tradition. When two cadets had unresolved conflict, they faced each other in the arena. No weapons, no tricks. Just raw strength and skill. Korath demanded it. "Gravity may have spared you, human," Korath growled across the hall, his voice sharp as steel. "But against me, you will fall." The other cadets roared in excitement. A duel between the strongest alien warrior and the human who had survived the impossible. It was something none of them wanted to miss. John stood tall, though his body still carried the marks of the chamber. His voice was calm. "I accept." The arena was a vast circle of steel and stone. Thousands of cadets gathered, their voices echoing like thunder. The instructors stood high above, silent and watchful. The duel began. Korath charged first, his massive frame moving like a storm. His fists swung with enough force to break bone. John ducked, rolled, and staggered back. His ribs screamed in pain, but his eyes stayed locked on his opponent. Every strike shook the arena. The cadets cheered. Some shouted for Korath, others for the human. John fought smart. He used the training he had learned under heavy gravity: low stances, strong balance, efficient movement. He could not match Korath's raw strength, but he could endure. Minutes stretched into eternity. Sweat poured, fists flew, and the arena floor cracked under their fight. At one moment, Korath slammed John to the ground. The crowd gasped. John lay still, his breath ragged. Korath raised his arms in victory. "It is over! The human is finished!" But slowly, painfully, John pushed himself back up. His body trembled, but his spirit did not. The arena went silent. John's voice, hoarse but strong, echoed, "We don't stop." The words spread like fire. Cadets whispered them, repeating them, feeling them. Korath roared in rage and attacked again. But this time, John was ready. He sidestepped, using Korath's own momentum against him. The alien stumbled. John struck, not with brute force, but with precision, timing, and willpower. Blow after blow, small but relentless, until Korath fell to one knee. His massive chest heaved, his eyes wide in disbelief. The crowd erupted. John did not finish with violence. Instead, he stood tall, breathing hard, and looked down at his rival. His voice carried across the arena. "This is what humans are. We endure, we rise. No matter the weight, no matter the enemy, we stand again." For the first time, silence fell on the academy. Even the instructors exchanged looks, knowing they had witnessed something rare. Korath lowered his head. His pride burned, but his spirit admitted the truth. The human had won. After the duel, the academy changed. Cadets trained harder, inspired by the human's example. Some even asked John to teach them his methods. Instructors studied his resilience, wondering how far humanity could go. John walked through the halls no longer as an outsider, but as a symbol. One night, as he looked out a window at the stars, an instructor approached him quietly. "You understand what you have done, human?" the alien said. John shrugged. "I survived." The instructor shook his head. "No, you have shown us something we forgot, that strength is not only muscle or bone. It is will, and your kind has more of it than any of us imagined." John smiled faintly. His body was scarred, but his spirit burned brighter than ever. Somewhere deep inside, he knew this was only the beginning. Humanity had been underestimated for too long. Now the galaxy had seen a glimpse of what they truly were, and whispers spread through the academy halls, whispers that grew louder each day. If one human can survive this, what could many do? The stars outside shone brighter, as if waiting for the answer.